Okay, um, key sign number 4. Today I'm going to deal with the gospel spreading throughout the earth. That is a key sign because the scriptures say the gospel will reach the ends of the earth and then the end shall come. So obviously the end won't happen until the gospel reaches the ends of the earth. So that has to be a key sign, not just a regular end time prophecy, but a key sign. The first one I did was in Daniel, how Daniel was told that in those days, in those last days, men will run to and fro and knowledge will be increased. There's obviously been a boom in transportation and knowledge within the last 100 years. Obviously, if you really think about it, you will amaze yourself if you really think about it. The other one I did was with deception, because Jesus warned over and over and over, do not let yourself be deceived. Paul even said, watching all things. But Jesus was dealing with the last days. And he kept saying, do not see that no one deceives you. Don't be deceived, etc., etc. I dealt with the rider on the white horse, how that's a form of godless religiosity. There's a lot of religious people. They're fans, but they're not followers. They talk religious. They talk about the law. They talk about the Most High God, but they have no relationship with Christ. None. Scriptures say they will have a form of godliness, but they will deny the power. Scriptures also say in the last days they will not heed sound doctrine. So this godless religiosity is everywhere. And you think about the cults, all the cults that have risen up in the last 300 years. You call them by name: KKK, Moonies, Muslims, Mormons, Hebrew Roots, Hebrew Israelites, Christadelphians, Christian Science, on and on and on it goes. All of them are less than 300 years. So the rider on the white horse, that's global godless religiosity. The third one, I don't even remember what the third one, what I did. But anyway, I just look for it, key sign number 3, and you'll see it. But this is going to be key sign number 4. This is about the gospel. Now, there's 2 things you should remember or consider, as I've considered, concerning this key sign. Number 1, you got to read the disciples' question in Matthew 24. Read the question. This is where post-tribulation people go horribly wrong. They don't understand the question, and that's why they're always messing up the answer. The question is a twofold question. It's 2 questions in one. When you understand the question, Jesus' answer would make a lot more sense to you, because he first gives the church signs to look out for. But after he's given all these signs, he says, and then the end shall come. He's talking about the rapture, because there was 2 questions about the rapture and the second coming. But even though he says the end shall come, after these signs occur, he's talking about the rapture of all the saints of all generations, including the church. The church does not have a monopoly on the rapture. It doesn't have a monopoly on heaven. It's included with the saints. But Jesus continues to speak, but pay attention, because he shifts his attention from the church, and he's now shifted his attention to the Jews who were left behind. It's pretty obvious when you just read what he's saying. He mentions the Jewish temple, he mentions the Jewish Sabbath, and he says to flee Judea. He's obviously focusing on the Jews, because the second coming is not for the church. The second coming is for Israel. I'm not going to go into that now, but just read the question and then read the answers, and it'll make more sense. But as far as the gospel has to reach the 4 corners of the earth before the end comes, that is a key sign, because the end won't happen until the gospel reaches the entire planet. Now, there's 2 ways you can look at that. You can look at it as the gospel, meaning the preaching of Jesus, how he came and he's God the Son, and he died and he rose, and through him and our belief and our obedience to him, we have salvation. That is the gospel. But was Jesus talking about the gospel or this gospel? So you got to remember, gospel simply means good news. There could be many different good news. For example, Paul talked about my gospel. He made it personal. Whatever good news Paul was talking about, that was his gospel. Isaiah pointed at a type of good news, the coming of the Messiah. So I can say that my parents are coming to visit me 2 months. That's good news to me. That's the gospel to me. But Jesus was talking about his return. So when he says this gospel will be preached on the earth, is it talking about the gospel that we know is the gospel, or is it talking about this gospel, meaning his return? Either way, the whole planet is talking about this stuff. It's pretty obvious that the gospel has reached every country. But when you look at what people believe, I'm talking cults included, it seems like every September 23rd there's a buzz. Oh, the end of the world is September 23rd, and the stars and the moon and the sky, that's a sign that they're corrupting the scriptures, because that has nothing to do with stellar systems. It's really about Jacob, his wife, and the 12 stars represent Israel, and the pregnant woman is Israel. The male child that she gives birth to is the Messiah, and the Messiah is caught up to heaven. That's the resurrection of Christ. And the dragon, that's trying to devour the child is talking about trying to kill the Messiah. It has nothing to do with eating Jupiter. It gets real stupid what these people believe. But the point is, a lot of people are talking about the return of Christ, whether they're true Christians or whether they're in cults. Even the Muslims are looking for their, I can't remember what they call it, the 12th Imam or 10th Imam or 9th Imam. They're looking for their form of Messiah as well. You got about 2.7 billion Christians, or people who profess to be Christians, about 2.4 billion Muslims. That's 2/3 of the planet. All talking about the return of some sort of Messiah. So, was Jesus talking about the gospel, meaning salvation through Christ, or this gospel, his return? Either way, the whole planet is talking about both. So that is a key sign. A lot of people don't recognize the key signs. The key signs have to be going on in that generation, along with all the other regular end time prophecies. So again, I did the key sign out of Daniel, how men will run to and fro and knowledge will be increased. In fact, I'll say this one thing about Daniel. So I'm done. I'm just recapping. In Daniel, it also says, in those last days, the righteous will understand. Because remember, the angel told Daniel to seal up the book. In other words, the understanding of this stuff won't be until the end of the age. And Daniel was told, just go to your grave, be gathered to your fathers. This isn't meant for you to understand. Even though you've been given the vision, it's none of your business. It doesn't apply to you or your generation. You just die, be gathered to your fathers. The final generation will understand. And the angel told him, the righteous will understand, but none of the wicked will understand. So to you younger apologists, and I mean people who've been an apologist for less than 5 years, or even if you're a young evangelist, if you're wondering why, when you talk to the wicked, the people who are against the scriptures, not just saying the wicked like as sinners. Sinners can be converted, they can be convinced of the truth, but the people who fight against the truth, particularly the people in these religious cults, if you wonder why you tell them the truth and they don't grasp it, well, it was pretty clear. The angel told Daniel that none of the wicked will understand. So don't stress yourself out wondering why these people can't grasp what you see as clear as day. It's because they can. Blindness is the worst thing to befall anyone. It's like Pharaoh. When they're blind, it's almost like God is setting them aside for eternal damnation. Blindness is the worst thing. It's probably worse than leprosy, probably worse than paralysis, poverty, because even those people can repent and come to salvation. But when you're blind, they can't even repent. It's like literally, God sends them a strong delusion so that they will believe their own lies. You can kind of see that in these New Age cults. So anyway, I dealt with that. Just something for you guys to think about concerning Daniel. But that key sign was men will run to and fro and knowledge will be increased. The other key sign was global religiosity, where people have or they talk religious, but they have no relationship with God. They talk about the Most High and the law of Moses, and how they think they're superior, and how they think they're spiritual Israel. All sorts of crazy stuff. The rider on the white horse represents global religiosity. Scriptures say they will have a form of godliness, but deny the power, meaning they have no relationship with God. They just talk about God. So that's obviously going on. You see it especially in social media. That is also an end time sign. And of course, the gospel reaching the four corners of the earth. That is also a key sign. And the other one I did before this was the key sign with Israel being regathered. That is a key sign because nothing else that Israel was supposed to do can happen until they are first regathered. So it's a key sign because the shackle cannot be reestablished, Hebrew cannot be reestablished, agriculture cannot be reestablished, it cannot be surrounded by their enemies, it cannot be a burdensome stone until they are first regathered, nor can they be born in a day, which happened May 10, 1948. None of these things can happen unless they are regathered. So that is also a key sign. So again, men will run to and fro, and knowledge will be increased. Israel will be regathered. The gospel will spread throughout the entire planet. And I've forgotten what the fourth one is. But anyway, the next one will be the fifth and final key sign. So again, key signs are things that have to be going on during the end time prophecies. If the key signs aren't there, then you only think that the prophecies are going on. But all the prophecies have been going on within the last 100 years, including the key sign. So again, hopefully this will benefit someone somehow.